he's gotten better and better and better and better, but it still hasn't been quite enough.
A big time robbery character. She's been knocked down several spots from nerfs by Capcom, and the way V-Shift works in this game has hit her too.
He's one of those honest bunch that I have. Like, I think that he has too much in the way of honesty. He's got good solid fundamentals, but sometimes you just need that sprinkling of crazy.
And at 28, this is formerly one of the best characters in all of Street Fighter V. She's still okay, but much more in line with where a crazy grappler should be placed in the tiers. So guys, we're really trying to grow the channel here right now. So again, if you can leave a like, I know a bunch of people beg and stuff for likes and all that kind of stuff like it, but it really helps out. It's like the number one thing people can do right now. If you want to see more content and stuff from us, just leave a like here on the video. It's super appreciated. There we are.
And if you're going to spend the time to like, hey, subscribe. And also, you know that moms love to subscribe to stuff. Tell your mom about it. It doesn't matter if she watches the content or not. Just tell her to make a YouTube account and subscribe. We'll take it. Yeah, we're going through our tier list here for Street Fighter V. So if you haven't seen part 1, please go back, check out part 1 really quick. You can do the Spark Notes version. We got timestamps on it. But we both did our first 11 characters, and now we are into part 2 of the 44 character tier list. We're going to do the next 11 here, and I already know the first one we're going to talk about because it was revealed by John last time that he had Necalli farther down. I have Necalli at number 33 out of 44 overall. He has been my main for the vast majority of this game. And so you had a lot to say on him. We can start out with what you had to say about Necalli.
Yeah, I'm at 37th. This guy used to be really good, but V-Shift, the input delay reduction, and his general nerfs, they've not been kind to the character, and you rarely see him anymore. That said, if you play very fundamentally what you do, you can definitely get consistent wins with Necalli. It's just not easy to do anymore. He's super stubby. He's among the most stubby characters in the entire game. His damage output is, it was once great, but now you have many characters who either equal or surpass him in the damage category. So Necalli gets outclassed in normals and specials and damage, and he's really boring to boot. Like, due to his lack of options, I could not put him very high up on the list because everyone has either abandoned this character or they rarely play him for the most part. He's got a few matchups in his favor, but it's just like, yeah, this is a big slide down the mountain since season 1, where he had amazing tools like an anti-air jab. It's just like, nah, why play Necalli is pretty much what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, I've moved on. I haven't played him in months. I still would consider myself a Necalli main, maybe secondary. I mean, I don't really care. And I think that's what the battle cry of the Street Fighter V crowd is I don't really care about Necalli. I do think that he's better than the bottom 11 here. I think he's a legitimate character who has legitimate tools. But yeah, it's like so few people seem to play him that it's almost like he's not relevant in that way. It's hard to even actually put him on the tier list technically because he's so not cared about. So I've said before, he has a bunch of good tools. He's got a dive kick, he's got a 3-frame, he's got an invincible DP, he's got a command grab, he's got that V trigger, and but he's stubby. He has a very hard time making his good tools work in tandem with one another to amount to a lot. And even when he's going for his thing, he's trying to get on offense, he's still kind of taking risks that a lot of other characters don't have to take as much because of his stubbiness, trying to occupy that space. He's just got to fight where other similar characters kind of have breeze throughs, and because of that, it's just more times, more interactions can go not in his favor, where they might go in the favor of a similar character that has a slightly better ability, slightly better reach, things like that. He needs glue. He needs glue to hold all the parts together, and he just doesn't have that. And he also doesn't have enough of a draw for people to care about him, so I don't think he's going to get a ton. I think he didn't work in the story. He didn't work as a character. I thought he was really cool. I still think he's pretty cool, guys. I mean, if you want to give him the last ditch little hurrah, we could, but I don't think it's going to come. And so I have him here at 33rd overall.
Yeah, when we watch the analytics for this segment, we're going to see that the Necalli stuff, even though it's right at the beginning, was the least viewed character.
Yeah, it just skipped right through.
It has to. That's Necalli's feat. So,
who's your number 33?
33, I had Sagat, who we
Okay, and
previously
we already spoke
discussed.
about
Yeah.
Sagat in the last video. So my number 32 was Ed. Is Ed in this section for you?
Ed is much further up for me.
Ah, he's been getting a lot of play, and he is a simple character, and in that he's got like simple inputs and whatnot, so he's supposed to be friendly to newcomers, and I think they did a really good job of making him that. He's got some good stuff. He's got some decent things, but like at the end of the day, he's fine, but he's not great. And like the stuff that'll throw at you, I feel like I can figure out, navigate decently well. I don't always beat Ed players, but I beat them, decently. And that's like playing as multiple different kinds of characters. I don't know that he has massive advantages against any one type of character. He just doesn't stand out to me as amazing. He stands out to me as a decent character who can do things and can do them with relative ease, and that's what I think he's supposed to be. And a character like that, you don't want to go too high on the tier list. So I was really comfortable putting him here in like the lower 11, I should say, not the bottom 11, but the lower 11. And I think that's where he should be as an entry level character for people to begin the game with. But you don't want someone who's relatively easy to go too high up on the tier lists.
Yeah, I had Ed at number 1. No, I'm kidding. I had him at 22nd. Ed finally climbed the mountain, or maybe climbed out of the gutter would be, a better way of saying it. But it took him a long time. He went from almost never being seen in tournament to being in 13 CPT events this year alone.
Top
Nemo.
eights.
There was a few top 8s in there because Corey Bell was able to do it, but Nemo, Corey Bell, Trashbox, Infiltration, Dominion, and a handful of others used him this year. And he even actually helped win a CPT event as a sub character. He was not the main character, but he was one of the sub characters that the guy won with. So this guy is a big time explosive character, big time power, big time other stuff. He is a classic example of take the throw. That is one of the major things about Ed is don't get frame trapped by him, and that's pretty much all he's got because like his standing medium punch is like plus 7,000. Yeah, but the thing about Ed, and what we're kind of get at, like where he kind of sucks at is he's got a 16 frame EXDP. So one of the most important parts about it is just stick out a jab, other things like that, and Ed pretty much has to hold it. Like he can do some stuff, but when Ed loses momentum in a matchup, he's just in a terrible spot overall. So I've got Ed at 22nd, so I'm definitely much more fond of this character, especially with his placements in the CPT and who's doing damage with him. I think he's a much better character. But also there's a history of people saying Ed is great and then like him being almost dead last in a lot of people's tier listings.
Yeah,
So
he's been a character that's got good patch notes, but then it just didn't come to fruition in the actual gameplay a few times now.
yeah.
And I think he's gotten better than he has been in the past for sure. But like he's got decent neutral, he's got okay neutral. And you can't really jump at him. He's got really easy anti-airs
His
and
anti-airs are so good now. Yeah.
but you don't have to. That's the thing. And
Yep.
if he had better neutral, the character could skyrocket up the tier list because if you can't jump at him and he can lock you down in the horizontal, he's got vertical and horizontal covered, and then he starts putting the onus on you to approach him, that's makings of a really strong character there. But he gets kind of held up in the neutral. It's not terrible, and he's got some stuff that's good, but like as long as you're not jumping at him and you're playing the patient game, he's gonna have to start throwing out that like spider web, and if he's doing that, that's got so much startup. If you guess your way in, and then he's on defense, and he's got, like you said, that DP is like a really. I don't like those DPs very much. I like playing against them because you can bait him out on wake up with a meaty and still block the DP. It's like he's got some hard times on defense. So because of that, yeah, I put him where I put him.
Yeah. I do think that Ed has got some more advantage matchups, and that's where he really starts to move up the tiers. But I'm not saying he's got a ton of those, but if you happen to be one of those characters who does not do that great against Ed because he can stand back and pelt you with his fireball. He can zone at mid-range, and again, you try to get in on him, and he's doing, 250, 300 damage or whatever, if he's got meter on an anti-air or something like that. And then, of course, if you jump at him when he's got his V-trigger stocked, that could be a nightmare as well. So I really think Ed is better than he's ever been before, but there it is.
Okay. Who do you have at 32?
I've got Kage there. I'm curious where you have this guy.
I have
because you played
Kage
him a bit.
nearby. I have
Okay.
Kage nearby. He's at number 28 for me. Kage is, I'll let you talk about him because I asked you first.
Okay. He's often labeled as a weaker version of Akuma, and that's just not a spot you want to be in this game. He's not bad, but he's far from being bad, actually, but just being so constantly overshadowed by what
10
other shadows
points.
can do. That means you're not going to see him a lot. Still has a handful of fans who put time into him, as his footsies, his damage, and most things are actually at solid levels, right? However, other characters have easier routes than him to victory, and that's really the biggest issue with Kage. You pretty much have to be a fan of his movements, his playstyle, and other stuff like that. That's why you play this character. It's not that he's better; he's just a little bit different. The classic Street Fighter Shoto character, right? Like Ryu's like, hey, I've got all your moves, like, and Kin's like, oh yeah, my DP does slightly more damage than yours, and goes a little bit further. It's like, and that's the major difference. That this is Shoto's in Street Fighter, right? So anyway, playing second fiddle to Akuma is just a recipe for low usage, and that's why I've got him at 32nd.
Yeah, Kage is one of a handful of characters, and they're actually, as I look at this kind of group together here, that are too honest for their own good, something like that. I mean, I know that sometimes he gets just a random EX Tatsu against a Phenom. Stuff like that can happen, and it was totally a reaction.
Who does that?
But when that's not happening, one, he's pretty stubby, so that's a thing in this game. He's got great walk speed, so there is that, and he can definitely get the job done. He doles out some crazy damage once he gets into your face. I think he's kind of a better Necalli in that way. Kind of similar to Necalli in actually a lot of ways, but also similar to Ryu being a Shoto and whatnot. He's got cool stuff. He's got some big time damage, but he gets hit like a truck because he has relatively low life. And he doesn't have enough, there's some stuff with weird teleport situations and whatnot that he can kind of eke some crazy, like steal some turns or have a weird mix up on you. But for the most part, you just kind of got to out solid your opponent, and his ability to play the neutral is okay, but it's just not the best. And when you get hit as hard as he gets hit, it's hard to make things come together. So you have people like Snake Eyes doing decently well with him, but no one's really just cracking into that top echelon with Kage, and it's kind of sad. I would like to see more. I think this is a really cool character. I think a lot of his animations, a lot of his combos and sequences are really fun to do, fun to look at, fun to watch, but like he's got to just outplay you in a lot of scenarios, and when that's the case, it's rough in Street Fighter V. So
yeah, outplay you or just go completely crazy. And we see plenty of that online if you play Kage. Like, just expect the random to just come out at some point in time. But if you're playing like that, you're not going to have consistent results. And there you are.
My number 31 was Gil, which we already talked about. Who's your 31?
That's a darn good question, John. My number 31, about who we talked about, was Zangief.
Oh, good on there. All right, number 30, Vega. I got Vega. Is Vega in this batch for you?
He's really close to it. I got him at 29th.
Oh, all right on. So Vega he's gotten better and better and better and better, but it still hasn't been quite enough. His neutral is really good because he's got the best walk speed forward and then backward in the game. He's got really good reach. He's got that dang slide that we actually did a video on that slide just by itself and like why it hits you. And the other day, oh my gosh, I was playing against a Vega that I run into fairly frequently, and I was holding down back for all of like 7 seconds. And on like the frame that I was like my brain was like, maybe I'll not hold block right now. Oh wait, slide's probably coming the moment I don't want to hold block. So then I went back down. In the like half a frame that I moved my hand, I got slid. This character has some crazy stuff. You can play. He's part of this kind of weirdly solid bunch, and I know you think Vega, they're just going to go off of the wall and they're going to do random slides, and yeah, that's part of the character. But higher levels, he's going to control the neutral because that's what he's good at doing, and so he's going to do that quite a bit, and he's got the tools to do that. He's got longer and more damaging combos than ever before, but for whatever reason, it's like maybe it's his defense, maybe it's his like I guess lack of anti-airs might be a big part of it too. It's hard to put my finger on exactly what it all is, because I think it's a lot of little things that add up to Vega just can't cut it when it comes to, I think, defense. And it's like maybe he doesn't have enough damage, but I'm really hesitant to,
No,
to
no, no.
put my stamp on
I
that.
could definitely weigh in because I played this character quite a bit. He was my former main, the problem with Vega is like he's got a bunch of A listings kind of across the board. His range is great, his speed is great, his combos and other stuff. When you have resources, they're quite good. The problem is, as you mentioned, his anti-airs and then his defense. Once you get in on Vega, it's really hard for him to stop momentum in the matchup. And you're seeing a bunch of top players like place with this character because you can overcome his weaknesses. It's possible to do it, but he's just not a great all-around character, and he's technical and all this other kind of stuff like that's where Vega falls apart. Is like you look at him on paper and you go, man, he's probably not that bad, but he has two of the things you do not want in this game, which is bad anti-airs and bad defense. It's hard to overcome that in this good fighting game.
So it's more that his weaknesses are too big. It's not that
Yeah.
his abilities aren't there, but his weaknesses are really big.
Yeah, that's what I would think. And again, it's people might beg to differ on that one, but I mean the amount of like the damage and the mix-ups Vega can get when he gets going, when he gets momentum, it's really intimidating. But he has to have resources to do it. He doesn't always have that, but when he's got them, he can chain multiple EX attacks into each other, throw a V trigger in there, all that kind of stuff. He can do some cool things. But there it is.
Who is your number 30?
Number 30, I had Oro.
Okay, so we already talked about him.
Yep.
Did you have anything else to add? No. All right.
No.
So my number 29 was Jury, which we've already talked about, and my 28 was Kage. Who's your 29? Oh, that was Vega.
29 was Vega, and then my 28 was Mika.
Mika. All right. So I said what I said about Mika. Now you've always been a little scared of this character, a little respectful, we can say, of this character. What do you have to say about Mika?
Oh, you can take the me and take it like most of the community. I don't know why Mika's so underrated in this and stuff. And again, at 28th, this is formerly one of the best characters in all of Street Fighter V. She's still okay, but much more in line with where a crazy grappler should be placed in the tiers. I don't know why she was so high tier for so long and just so underrated, but V-Shift did a number on Mika. Where a number of other grapplers who are higher up weren't as badly affected by V-Shift, she was majorly impacted with this because she would often, force people just into a series of guesses and kind of very unearned in that way. And those guesses now are just heavily mitigated by V-Shift because it's like, well, I mean, you don't have a lot of great counters to this. Like you've got to really stick your head in there to get them. And Mika players don't like to use their head. So, anyway,
they do sometimes for anti-airs.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. But anyway, there are a few great Mika players left roaming around right now. And they play very fundamental and footsie based, which is fine. She's on the more rare side of things, but she still has a presence in many tournaments. You go in there and look at her results. She's still in there. And she's still, doing well. It's not like everyone's dropped her. That's why I've got her at 28th. And, I know a number of people like have her way lower and, all that kind of stuff, but it's like, she's still well played, right? And anyway, so
I have her at 37th. I mean, I don't know. I don't see her a ton, and you watch more tournaments than I do, so I'll concede that you probably have better information there than I do. But yeah, like when I run into her, it's like Mika's to me are when they get close. Yeah, they have their crazy mix-ups and they have their grappler stuff that the grapplers tend to have. But when they're trying to play neutral, it's like they get shut down and they have gimmicks, and sometimes those gimmicks work, which is why she is as high as she was on my list. I was going to put her even lower, but she just seems like a shell of her former self. And that's a good thing.
Yeah,
definitely a good thing because she was overpowered for what she was. But yeah, she has a hard time doing much outside of her trick, which got directly hit by V-Shift. And if you're solid, it's like I'm just gonna try to out solid you for the most part. And then even if you do get in, I have V-Shift or I have the guess, and then if I push you out, it's like you got to do it all over again. Just not a good scenario for her. So
yeah, Fudo still plays her, plays Poison more often. Luffy still plays her. El Chakotay, like there's a bunch of like really strong Mika players that are out there. Yoyote still plays her. Like this is still a character that's seeing some usage, in decent amount of it, but. She went from top 10 maybe top 5 from some of the other seasons now down to 28th. That is a huge drop in power, and you rarely see that in fighting games where someone is formerly top tier. Shouts to all the people who would not admit that with Mika before, but the fact that she's dropped this many spots is that is rare in fighting games to see that pretty much with anyone. And so it's yeah, there it is.
Who you got at 27?
At 27, I had Birdie.
Oh, okay. And we spoke about him. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nah, nothing on
All
Birdie.
right. I had Ryu at number 27.
Hmm.
Ryu got a lot better. He gets a lot better every time, but it actually turns out to be not all that much better. He's solid. He's basic. He's got some cool stuff, but I don't know. You'd think with all those tools he would be coming out in, especially being like the most popular character in the game for obvious reasons. You'd think you'd see some better placements. You'd think you'd see more waves being made by him. But outside of that beginning, like the beginning of the season when everyone was giving him another chance, and I do enjoy him. I think he's fun. He's a fun Street Fighter player or Street Fighter character to play in this game. He just doesn't have what it takes to get the job done. Not enough. So.
I see. I have Ryu much higher up at 21st, and people might feel that's too high. But I think if Akuma was more nerfed, I think a lot of people would agree that this is actually a good spot for him at almost a top 20. Ryu's damage output now is really good, and he can kill you in just a few touches. And he's strong enough where you're actually seeing a few people now pick him over Akuma. It depends on the matchup and the circumstance, but you're actually seeing people go, "Oh, I'm not going to pick Akuma here. Let me pick Ryu." He takes a good amount of work though to get into the positions where he can just do a lot of damage. And a few of the harder reads to set up opponents and all that kind of stuff. Like he doesn't have to commit to major stuff, but he has to commit a little bit more than some of the other top tiers. So, I couldn't get him, in the top 20. But you're seeing people like Samurai, Momochi, Nephew, Otani, MOV, Master of Vampires, Jimmy, of course, who stuck with them, and then Eli the Curry, and a number of other players as well play Ryu, not necessarily as a main, sometimes as a main, but as a sub. And this is the most popular Ryu has been since season 1.
Mhm.
And it just to me, again, he's just so heavily overshadowed by Akuma that it's hard to kind of like get a good read on what Ryu can do, because it's just like, well, why not play Akuma? And that argument beats everything I've got here, right? But that does not mean he's not solid in his own ways. It's like he's kind of like he's just not on a lot of people's radars.
He's one of those honest bunch that I have. Like I think that he has too much in the way of honesty. He's got good solid fundamentals, but sometimes you just need that sprinkling of crazy that you can do safely and hugely advantageously. And I just don't think he has that. Like he has like sweep into V trigger, which everybody has, but he needs
Right.
more than sweep
Mm.
into V trigger. Um, all right, so number 26. This is where I put Rose. She's one of the two characters that I like. Rose and Orzo. Uzo. Uh, I don't know enough about. We've played a few times. I've run into like two other Roses online. I've heard that she's total trash. I've heard that she's secretly decent. I turn this over to you, and maybe we can talk about her when she's on your list.
Yeah,
But yeah,
well,
with
speaking
Rose,
of
I
where
just
she's at my list, she's at number 26.
nuh-uh.
Yes,
Is
right where
she?
you have her. Yeah, exactly. Right
I
where you have
win.
her. Yeah.
I win. I have figured it out. I figured the biggest Rose fan, and all the things that you were going to say is the things that I was going to say. So go ahead and tell people what we have to say about Rose because we are experts.
Yeah, psychic read, man. Good stuff. She's insanely technical. In my opinion, she's right below Minot. Probably the second most technical character in the game. But I don't think she's low tier. She's just underappreciated by many players right now. Rose has won a match in the CPT Grand Finals already. Plus, recently had a few players get into top 8 winners.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, this is a character who's getting some nice tournament placements already. And keep in mind what I just said. This is a highly technical character who's only been out for 6 months, and she's already making her appearance known. She's already a factor in some events. It kind of depends on where you go. West Coast tends to be a lot of Rose players. That's where I'm at. Filipino Man, Flaquito. There's some others and stuff out here. It depends on the region you're at, but there's also Japan has a number of very strong Rose players as well already coming up. So this is a tournament level character. I don't think she's spectacular, but she's a strong zoner who's difficult to play. And how often do you see that in Street Fighter 5? It's like, okay, like, it's, and she's mid tier. Like, I don't think she's a top tier character by any, stretch of the imagination. She's a mid tier character. So where is her spot on this? And it's like, well, it's Street Fighter 5. Do I really want to zone in this game? And so a lot of people end up just immediately putting Rose in the low tier, area because it's like, well, she's technical, she's got a zone, screw her, kind of thing. But it's like, if you're putting the work in, you're getting some pretty decent results with this character right now. And that's why I've got her at 26.
Me too. All those things you said. Is exactly what I think. I had Cody at 25, which we already talked about. Who'd you have at 25?
I've got Ken there. And Ken is not Akuma, and but I'm curious, where do you have Ken at? Because I know you
24.
24. Okay, so right there.
Yep.
He's not Akuma. That's probably his biggest problem. That's kind of the thing with Shotos, right? This guy is still played by a number of pro players like Crisitarian, of course, Momochi, Infectious, and Etta. The thing about Ken is he excels really, really good at forcing your opponent to play in a style and approach that you want them to as Ken. And he's the best Shoto at doing that, in my opinion. His pressure game, his high damage options, even the best of players, it can knock them, off balance and stuff because he's just such a wild, But how do you feel about Ken, John? I know this is a
I
pet
was
peeve
talking
of
about,
yours.
yeah, I was talking about the honest bunch like Ryu and I think Jury, maybe Kage goes into that. Ken is a lot of what those characters have without the honesty because Ken
Hmm.
will play, a good Ken will play reserved because Ken can whiff punish you. Ken can get stuff going in an honest manner, but he has some legit BS that he can throw at you at any moment. And having
Right.
that spark, having that peppering in of craziness is what you need in this game to excel. I've heard that he's a lot better. I've heard that more in this season that he's grown. I just haven't seen the results or like felt the wrath to put him much higher. But if he were to start appearing in more top eights and stuff, I wouldn't have a problem like putting him even higher up on the list. I just need to see the evidence for myself. Like his V Trigger 2 has gotten better, where you can do like legitimate combos, and that actually controls a decent amount of the horizontal space where you can't throw fireballs if he's got it, things
Yeah.
like that, or he can whiff punish with it, stuff like that.
It is.
Um,
It is. His V Trigger 2 is a lot better. And in 2 bars, and as you say, you just can't throw fireballs and do certain things on reaction. You're just hitting 2 buttons, and it's like you're done. And he goes into a fairly large combo there. A combo that can lead into super and do 50-60% of your life.
yep.
That's rough, and that is the main improvement I've seen for Ken players is switching over to V Trigger 2.
Ken has to take risks. A lot of the risks that he takes are like it's sort of like a 50-50. Like he's going to go for his overhead on your wake up. If it works for him or if it doesn't work for him, you can punish. If it works for him though, the benefits are pretty high. They're not as good as some of other characters that can take risks with higher rewards with less risk, but his are a little in his favor at this point paired with the fact that he can play fairly honestly and fairly decently, in those two gears. And how it's kind of hard to keep up with Ken, and then incredibly frustrating when you can't. And he takes advantage of that a lot. You get frustrated against this character. Like I. So with all that in his bag, I think Ken is better than before. I don't know if it's the best he's ever been. I'd have to go and revisit. It doesn't really matter. He's number 24 in my book right
Yeah.
now.
The sparks are going to fly when Ken's on screen, and like I call this character super unpredictable, and often the people who use him are playing that way as well. And so
Hmm.
you 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 don't want a character that's that wild to be too strong. And I think
Yeah.
season one Ken was definitely better, and I think we saw a lot of issues with that, despite and he got knocked down and he's kind of fluctuating around the spot, but like Super Turbo Ken is known as like a very wild character as well, and he's like mid tier. And we have Ken in the mid tier. This is perfect for him. Don't make him
Hmm.
any better, because you don't want a character that's crazy to be strong. Like it's just like let people tap into the crazy and get good results with that if that's how they want to play, but don't make that the standard for a high tier character.
Yeah, one other thing I want to tack on a little bit of a specific here is that like when he goes for his stuff, he'll hit like a combo and he gets decent damage, usually some Oki, but also he's got some really good corner carry. I don't know how much we talk about that, but like if he ends a combo with his Tatsu and it takes you across the screen, or in the scenario where he's like he hits you with a back throw, that Ken back throw rolls and then tosses. It's like it's taking you to
Hmm.
the corner one way or another, and then a rush down character like this that's going to put you in the mix up, like that's where he wants you. So he's also really good at putting you where he wants you to be to then capitalize off of his bigger strengths. So he's got decent strength in the neutral and strong strengths in the offensive.
Love those strong strengths. They're very
The
good.
strong strengths are highly underrated. Who do you have for 23?
At 24, I've got Ibuki. So
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I have
yeah.
Ibuki at 23. What? We're getting pretty close
We're
right
getting
here.
dial this in,
Tell
huh?
me about
Um,
Ibuki.
a big time robbery character. She's been knocked down several spots from nerfs by Capcom, and the way V Shift works in this game has hit her too. Ibuki definitely has plenty of setups that will blow through V Shift, especially if you try to get it out there on kind of the first attempt and whatnot. But if you know where to V shift at, if you've done your homework against her, you can kind of get out of her stuff now, which is much better than it used to be. And I think that there's going to be a number of people out here who are upset by us having her this high up the list still, because I've seen a number of people who are like, oh, she's garbage now. But you play against a really good Ibuki player, and it's like, she's not garbage. She was getting away with murder in some of these
Yes.
past seasons.
That's why
And now,
Fujimura left, is because like she's solid, but then she just, like you said, she could get away with murder. She had ridiculous powerful stuff, and now she's gotten her powerful stuff kind of got a buzz cut, and now there's a little more thought, a little more like threading in the loop, and he's like, I don't want to pair my ridiculous abilities as a player. I want my payoffs to be ridiculous, and I don't want my
yeah.
payoffs to just be kind of like moderate.
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of people jump ship, because Ibuki was no longer capable of easy wins.
So
But when
spoiled
you,
brats, you Ibuki players.
well, if you run across a Ibuki player now, you know they're probably damn good, because to eke out wins with this character is not easy to do, and some of their setups and other stuff are just going to be layered upon layered, and it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, there's a few Ibuki players I play regularly online, and it's like, yeah, I'm in for it now. So yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So I am like you, disappointed that the tier whores out there just kind of dropped the character and just like, I was only using her for cheap wins. But there are still a lot of good players out there who have stuck with her, and it's like, if you have stuck with Ibuki now, you have my utmost respect, because it's like, hey, you're not just in it for the cheap wins. You like this character, and it's making her work now is a legitimate thing.
Hmm. Okay, and then who's your number 23 then?
Number 23. This is going to be controversial, particularly for you, and so I'm going to get into this here,
I
and then
know who it is.
I'm gonna. Okay, so who do I have here?
Lucia.
Yep, you're right. Number 23, I've got Lucia.
We'll talk about her later.
Yeah, and you want to talk about her later?
Talk about her later.
All right, we'll save her.